Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by the great folks over at Greta, the home of our electric watch parties during the season and our off-season chill spot at this time of year. Make Greta your spot to eat, drink, and play this summer. I'm just getting word now. I've been tasked with picking some dates, picking some Canucks games that we want to have our watch parties at Greta this year. We're planning them early. People are going to know about them early. People are going to be able to hit up Greta. I was looking at the Greta menu today. Little sidebar. They got a lot of good stuff on the Greta menu. I think right now you can go order Canucks Army nachos at Greta.
Really?
Yeah.
What are Canucks Army nachos? What,
the Canucks Army nachos.
What's the Canucks Army element of the nachos?
That's a great question that I should probably know the answer to. But hey, I'll go order some Canucks Army nachos and I'll let you know. Okay. I'm very excited about this. It is a good day because it is a Thursday episode, which means it's a Family Feud episode. Before we get to Family Feud, which we kick off the show with, I got to tell you that me, David Quadrelli, and him, Harman Quads, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, are coming to you from the iconic Wall Center in downtown Vancouver. Looking for your next meeting space? Contact the Wall Center for all your event needs at sales@wallcenter.com. Big episode of Canucks Conversation planned today. We're going to talk. It's a survey-heavy episode. Your teammate at The Athletic, Dom Luszczyszyn, wrote a really good article about ranking NHL front offices. We're going to dive into that. We're going to rank the Canucks front office ourselves, and then anyone else, we're going to see what anyone else has to say in the YouTube live chat. So get it in, folks. Get your anyone else's in early. But it's time. It's time to play the feud. You're going first. Jacob has made the survey harder. We'll see how many points you can get. I'll come in, clean it up. Jacob, take it away, my friend.
Hello, everyone. I am your man, Jacob Lazar, and this is Canucks Conversation, Family Feud. With the intro music now and everything. All right, so Harman is going first again today. Harman, are you ready? You did great last week, but we've got a much harder set of questions for you this time around.
All right, let's go.
All right, give me a couple seconds here as we get set up. Quads, can you hear us right now? I don't think so. He swapped the headphones out. He's cranking his tunes. Harman, let's get set. All right, you have 25 seconds on the clock.
By the way, can I skip if I'm stuck on a question?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
So your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. And yeah, if you need to pass, move on to the next question, just say pass. And if we have time at the end, I will circle back and you can give it another go.
Sounds good. Let's see how this one goes.
All right. You ready, Harman?
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most, how painful/heartbreaking would you rank your Canucks fandom?
8.
Name a former Canucks alternate captain.
Ryan Kessler.
Favorite food to eat at a game during a game at Rogers Arena.
Costco hot dogs.
Name a BC-based pro sports team other than the Canucks.
BC Lions.
Who is the best Canadian-born Canuck of all time?
Burrows.
Just in time, right before the buzzer. All right, you can tap Quads, let them know, and I'm going to tally up your points here as we get ready for the second round.
That was tough.
How do you think you did?
I don't know how I did.
Okay.
In all honesty.
You know, the people are probably wondering, what is it that I'm listening to when I put on a spare set of headphones and I make sure, obviously, that I can't hear what's being said. So I have no idea what's going on, but I can tell you that I listen to American Woman by Lenny Kravitz. You know that song?
No, I don't.
American Woman. You know that song?
No.
Mama, let me be. Well, it's by the Guess Who.
You better lock in. I definitely got a couple of those wrong.
You think so?
Yeah.
Like, just you think you put up some zeros? No.
I don't know about zeros.
No, there were no zeros.
Okay. Jacob's got the score.
Yes. Actually, I just gotta sum it up here.
Jacob did tell me before. Yeah, take your time. Jacob did tell me before we started that if you got every single number one answer, that you would only get 196. Because last week someone pointed out, they're like, you guys didn't tally it up. Harman got like 300 points on the first round. So the survey was apparently much tougher. So we will see what ends up happening. But Jacob did say, like, if you get every number one answer, you get 196 points. I think that's like the sweet spot that we want, right? Is we don't want you to be able to get every number one answer. But
yeah.
How do you do, Jacob?
Harman got 90 points.
Okay,
So Quads, you need
that's fine.
110.
I gotta lock in. You're right. You're right. You have to lock in. You were not joking. Okay, I'm ready.
Sorry, just got to reset the timer here.
Yeah.
All right, Quads, your time will begin when I finish reading the first question.
Mhm.
If you give one of Harman's answers, you'll hear the buzzer,
Mhm.
and you'll just have to move on to something or give another answer, and you can always pass as well.
Okay.
All right, Quads, are you ready?
You bet.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most, how painful / heartbreaking would you rank your Canucks fandom?
7.
Name a former Canucks alternate captain.
Ryan Kessler. Alex Burrows.
Favorite food to eat during a game at Rogers Arena.
Carve sandwich.
Name a BC-based pro sports team other than the Canucks.
Vancouver Canadians.
Who is the best Canadian-born Canuck of all time?
Trevor Linden.
Nice work. All right, I'm going to tally up your answers here, and we will go through. I think it's going to be a close one.
You didn't. Who'd you say for best Canuck?
Last
Canadian
one, I just
Canuck?
completely blanked, and I was just, and I only had a few seconds, so I was just like Burrows, and I knew that was the wrong answer, but I just
It's got to be
spit something else.
Oh, it's probably Luongo.
Yeah.
it's probably
I don't know why.
Luongo.
See,
Quads,
it's my-
Quads, just to double check, you said 7 for the first answer,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I did. Yeah,
My quick recall, like
yeah.
on a snap like that, when it's just like a few seconds to think, I'm not. That's
I'm
not a
pretty good
skill
at
of
that.
mine.
I'm pretty good at
That's
that.
definitely not a
I
skill
think
of
we have a
mine.
good thing going with you starting,
Yeah,
and then I can come in as the closer because I think it would throw you off if you heard the buzzer, right? If you said your answer, but then I had
Yeah.
already said it, I think it might throw you off a little
Yeah.
bit. I think we got a good 90 points is good. Like 90 points is
it's
solid in
alright.
Family Feud. It's a fine score to get. Like I've watched, dude. So I'm a big fan of Family Feud, as you might have guessed. And that Fast Money segment, the one we're playing on the show, like there's times when people will come through with like 45 points and then their family member comes out and Steve Harvey's like, all right, you got to get 155 points. And they're like, oh my gosh. And I've seen people clutch up. So did I get 110 points? That's the question that we're asking now. And we will find out very shortly.
All right, I'm ready. And just to check, who was your answer for the last one? Best Canadian?
Trevor Linden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. So the first question was on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most, how heartbreaking or painful would you rank your Canucks fandom? Harman, you said 8. That was 21 points.
Nice.
Quads, you said 7. That was the number one answer with 27.
Dude,
so you guys,
let's go.
you guys cleaned up with number 1 and 2 there. That was a very balanced one.
That's important.
We had quite a few 10s in there.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
10 would have been like what, number 3 answer? Because we got 1 and 2, which is what you want to
10,
do.
10 was the number 3
No
answer.
problem. 1 and 3, or 1 and 2. That's what we want. Every
Yeah.
question. Okay, let's go.
All right. And then for the second question, name a former Canucks alternate captain. You guys sold pretty hard on this one. Harman, you said Ryan Kessler. Ryan Kessler was the number 2 answer, but only 13 points.
Oh, big spread. Big spread.
Quads, you said Alex Burrows.
Yeah.
Only a single vote for Alex Burrows.
Wow. Oh, see, that hurts. That's going to hurt.
The number 2 answer was Kessler. Number 1 answer was Daniel Sedin. That was the big
Yeah.
one
Damn
with
it.
40. Kevin Bieksa at number 3 with 11. And shout out to Alex Edler with 7. So it was a pretty big spread. We got some
Okay.
Oland, some Bertuzzi.
That's on us, though. We should have
some
had Daniel.
Malhotra
Should have
in
had
there
Daniel.
as well.
Okay.
Favorite food to eat during a game at Rogers
I
Arena?
went way too specific.
No, actually, Quads, you did not go too specific. So Harman said Costco hot dog.
Oh, God, Harman.
There were 6 responses for Costco hot dog.
Listen, I don't head down to the spot
Concession.
to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
concession
Yeah.
to buy food during the game, so I don't know what they sell.
So,
Oh my
But I knew-
gosh.
Costco
I knew
hot dog
somebody was
From my ivory
Costco
tower in the
hot
press
dogs.
box, I don't know what the commoners eat.
Yeah. Now, I did have to split it up. There was a lot of specific Costco hot dogs and then specific like steamer hot dogs or arena hot
Okay,
dogs.
sure.
So those were separate. Interestingly, 11 so arena hot dog was the number 1 response with 20.
I feel like hot dog should just count.
No, because I had to.
I guess
had
Harman
to split
didn't
it up.
specify
Yes.
Costco.
and I have a specific column for Costco hot dog. So
Hey, I at least got some points.
yes,
You did.
none / eat before with 11 was actually number
Dude, I
3
should get to
answer.
eat
Oh, that's
before.
so
because
lame. That's what you
Costco.
do. Yeah, you come with your Tupperware. Okay, let's go.
We'll see. I might tack those points on to the end,
We'll
Harman.
see.
We'll see if it's
We'll
going to
see.
matter or not.
Okay, Carve. What did I get?
Carve, actually got you some points. So Carb with 10 points.
There's only 4 more.
It is really good.
Mine wasn't a terrible guess.
Yes.
Where was that? Like number 2?
That was the number 3 answer.
Okay.
Was Carb hot.
So number
Carb
1 was
sandwiches.
Arena Hot Dog. What was number 2?
Number 2 was
Gotta be Triple
popcorn.
O's. Oh, popcorn.
Triple O's was on the list with 7, beer at 8.
You know what, Jacob? That's a great question.
Yes.
Like, you actually crushed it with this survey. Okay,
that
let's
one
go.
was good. We got some great responses. All right, a BC-based pro sports team other than the Canucks. Harman, you said the BC Lions. That was the number 1 response with 48 points. Quads, you said sponsor of the show, Vancouver Canadians.
Of course.
They got
Company man,
7 points. That was actually the number 3 answer. The number 2 answer was the Whitecaps.
Who gives? Okay, anyways, might be a future sponsor. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know if
and
I can talk about the
our colleague Blake Price probably would have responded with Vancouver Whitecaps. And actually, there was 2 votes there for the Abbotsford Canucks as well. So those are the hardcore Canucks fans when they say other than the Canucks, and they immediately give a different Canucks.
Yep.
And then finally, the final question, or sorry, yes, the C's was 7 points. The best Canadian-born Canuck of all time. You guys managed not to get the overwhelming number 1 answer.
Oops.
The Hall of Famer Roberto Luongo was the number 1 answer with 61. Harman, you gave Alex Burrows, who got 2 responses.
Oh man,
I butchered that. I knew it as soon as I answered that. I was like, butchered.
Gave the
Linden's
number
number
2
2
answer, Trevor Linden, with 27 points.
damn it!
Still
We
pretty
could have
mean.
won. We could have won with
I know.
Luongo.
Quads, you got 72 points. Your total as a team, 162.
And if you gave us hot dog, we still
You
wouldn't. have
still
it.
would not have made it.
All right, learning lesson there. There's a lesson in there. I had like 7 seconds to spare. I should have really thought about it and used all my time. I was going rapid fire on the Linden question.
you're just gonna have to carry, man.
No,
There's
you
not-
learning lessons. Learning lessons. That was fun.
There's not a lot to learn there, unless I can figure out how to
You'll get better
improve
at
my
it.
memory.
You'll
recall.
get better at it.
I don't know.
I think you get better at it each week.
I think you just need to make the questions easier.
No, those questions were good. Those questions were perfect.
those
I
are
really
good.
liked the response. We got some really good balanced responses. The scale
Yeah.
of 1 to 10. I should probably also tell you guys, on the scale of 1 to 10, I had a few of the numbers where there was like, hey, like here's a description for it. Number 10 said, I will one day die of a Canucks induced brain aneurysm. And a lot of people saw that and still clicked on number 10. So,
All right. That was a good segment.
I promise you, every week there's gonna be one question like the Burrows response where you're like, dude, what were you thinking?
Oh, no. It'll be okay.
No, I know. It'll be funny
It'll be
though.
better.
It'll be funny.
And-
because as soon as I answer them, I'm like, it's the same as last week when I gave Blackhawks as the rival, as the biggest rival, and immediately I was like, I know that's the wrong answer, and then it comes to me like 5 seconds later.
Yeah, it happens, man. It's fast money, baby. It's fast money. And I just want to say, survey was really good. We got most responses were from people in the YouTube and the podcast. So like active listeners of the show. We didn't put out
Sweet.
the survey on Twitter until later. So it's active listeners of the show. What we're going to do like in the weeks ahead and as we continue this all throughout the season is we're going to do questions based on like what's being talked about on the show. So for example, maybe next week, like we're talking about confidence in the Canucks front office. Maybe next week's survey has something about on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in the Canucks front office or something like that. Jacob comes up with the questions and he does a great job as we just saw there. I can't believe Luongo would have won us the game. Like if I had just said
absolutely
Luongo,
would have. Yeah.
that's really frustrating. All right, that's okay. We live and we learn. We live and we learn. Okay, Harm, let's get to our next segment, our big segment today of grading the Canucks front office. This segment of our show is brought to you by the Bad for Baseball podcast. Nick Palilog and Adam Peddle host Bad for Baseball, the most unapologetic, in-your-face baseball podcast that delivers weekly unfiltered takes on the good and the bad around MLB and the world of baseball. Since 2020, Nick and Adam have been entertaining Blue Jays fans with their commentary and live streams on their YouTube channel, Blue Jays Today. But their love of baseball goes much deeper than for just one team. After the Shohei Ohtani free agency drama, the guys knew they needed an outlet to talk ball outside of their hometown team. That's why new episodes of Bad for Baseball drop every Monday and Thursday on the Bad for Baseball YouTube channel or wherever you stream your podcast. Okay, I'm excited for this segment, Harm. Your colleague over at The Athletic, Dom Lucian, he's a big fan of surveys too. He put out NHL front office polls where he polled 10,000 fans from each NHL fan base along with 250 neutral observers to rank each NHL front office. We aggregated this, we wrote about it at Canucks Army because it was very interesting. The Canucks had skyrocketed, moving up from 30th in last year's ranking. He's been doing this for 9 years, he wrote, from 30th to 5th with this year's edition. No real surprise there.
Yeah, that has to be one of the biggest year-over-year
I think it is.
improvements.
I tried to
in
look.
the
I think it is the
survey's
biggest raise.
history. Before we get into the Canucks specifically,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to point out just a couple of fan bases that I thought were completely off base. And again, this
Montreal.
isn't Dom's personal opinion. This
Yes.
is like survey results.
10,000 fans, like from the fan base, and then the public was the 250 neutral observers.
So 1, 2, 3, I think generally makes sense, right? Florida, Dallas, Tampa, they have tremendous front offices. Number 4, Utah.
That was wild.
And trust me, I think Utah has a bright future. They've got a lot of prospects, a lot of cap
They
flexibility.
also made the
that.
Sergachev trade, though.
And I'm sure there's a lot of optimism around having a new owner in Ryan Smith, who's finally going to be able to spend. But number 4 for front office confidence, I don't know about that. And then the Habs at number 6 is like they're doing a decent job with their rebuild, but it's a pretty traditional rebuild.
Here's the thing, though. The teams, the votes were split by public and fan base. Like you can look at the letter grade that was given by the public and the fan base. I think that's where you can see the delusion among a fan base when they're just way off. Like the Habs, the public gave them 2 C pluses, a B or 2 Bs, and then 2 B pluses. And it was all A's by the fan base. There was 1 B minus on free agency, and that's it. Every other pick was just saying, yeah, Habs are great. Habs are doing a great job. Love the front office. And Jacob, our producer, he can't defend himself right now because he's fixing a camera, but he's a Habs fan. He was talking up the Habs big time on this one as well.
And don't get me wrong, I'd have them somewhere in the top half, but 6 seems high.
6 is high. And 4 for I was going to call them Utica. Utah is very high. Anyone else that's I immediately went to look where the Sens are because I've talked about it before. Sens fans are extremely delusional on Twitter. Like you see every year, it's like, this is our year. Look at our start. Look at October. Look at how great we were. And then by November, it's like, where did we go wrong?
Well, one of the biggest discrepancies that stands out between public and fan base are the Red Wings. So overall, they ranked 21st, which isn't that high. But the split is, the fan base has Yzerman ranked at 16th, and the public has him ranked at 25th. That's a pretty stark disparity. And I think Yzerman came into a scenario, I can understand why there's a disparity, because he came into a scenario after Ken Holland where there were no prospects, cap hell. It was going to always be a long rebuild. And because of that, many Red Wings fans still believe in the Yzer plan and see their prospect pool and go, all right, we still believe in our future. But I'm sure what a lot of people on the outside are saying and why they're skeptical is because of all their free agent signings that haven't really panned out. And, they got Husso. Twice they've tried to sort of like fix the goaltending, and that hasn't worked out. For the first one, of course, was Nedeljkovic. That's still a question mark. And then the contracts for like Kopp and Comfer not aging too poorly, but Petrie, Hall, there's just been a lot of questionable pro scouting moves. And that's why like they got a D+ in free agency from the public, which I think is apt. Another
one I noticed, Avalanche fans hate their team. Hey, like go look at the Avalanche at number 9 on this ranking from Dom. The fan base gave them a D+ for draft and develop, and the public didn't give them anything lower than a B-. Their lowest grade is a B- on draft and develop. Public thinks very highly of the Avalanche, but Avs fans do not.
The drafting, I understand why the fan base is a lot harsher.
27. You can't tell me the Avs are 27th in drafting and developing.
Not far off, man. Because
not,
look at
they
it. They
should be as high as 14.
Their best players were like just basically like lottery picks, right?
Yep.
McKinnon, Makar. That's an actually good pick though, because that took skill. It wasn't consensus that he was going to be there. Rantanen was a top 10 pick. So it's like their best draft and develop guys were such high picks that it's like
the Benning arguments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And pretty much every other first round pick, second round pick they flubbed on. It's the pro scouting in terms of how they built that original cup winning team. When you look at Taves and Nichushkin, Kadri, and a lot of those supporting pieces. So honestly, the Avs drafting and developing has actually been pretty poor.
D+?
D+ might be too harsh.
Here's the thing, though.
I would give them a C-.
There are teams that miss on the picks that we're now saying for the Habs, for the Avs. I don't like to call them the Habs. The Avs and the Canucks that were like, yeah, well, you have to make those picks. Like there are teams that flub those.
I would give them a C- for draft and develop.
Yeah, I think that's more fair. Speaking of us giving grades, let's do that now for the Canucks front office. I thought this would be fun. Let's give our own letter grades. The ranking was based on roster building, cap management, draft and develop, trading, free agency, and vision, and then an overall letter grade where you kind of put it all together at the end. Shall we? We'll go through it, and we see the one that the public gave. So I'll go through the public and the fan base rankings before we give ours. So the public on roster building gave an A-. Fan base gave an A. That ranked them third. Cap management, public said B. Fan base said A-. Drafting and developing, public said B-. Fan base said C+. Trading, public said B. Fan base said A-. Free agency, public said B+. Fan base said A. Vision, public said B+. Fan base said A-. The total average was, the public had them at 3.6, which was a B+, and the fan base had them at an A-, which again ranked them fifth. So their happy medium was that they ended up slotting in at number 5 on this list.
Sweet.
Okay, so now let's do ours. Roster building. I have them at an A- on roster building.
A.
A?
Yeah. And again, for me, I'm taking into consideration just how shoddy the roster was when Benning was fired.
Yep. I look at it and I say, you didn't miss on much, but the only things that's going to hurt them, like the only thing that's going to hurt this management regime when you look at the work they've done, the only real things that hurt them are the Kuzmenko extension, the Ilya Mikheyev contract in free agency, and I mean, I'm going to talk about the Jack Studnicka trade because that seems to be their only bad trade, but it's so insignificant that I think when you look at things that you don't like that this management regime has done, I think the list basically starts and ends with those two. Like, is there anything else? I mean, there's going to be people that say, oh, extending Elias Pettersson, but other than your little ones that individuals have, I think the ones that we can all agree on are the Mikheyev extension and the Kuzmenko extension as well.
Yeah,
and there's hindsight for the Kuzmenko extension as well.
Yeah, and if you want to be harsh, you could say that is spending collectively just over $5 million between Myers and Desharnais on the right side. The best use of cap space.
That's a good one too.
Probably not the most efficient spending, but you can live with it. And it may work out even. Again,
we're talking about an A- versus an A. It's pretty insignificant. Cap management, again, had them at a B+.
I have them at an A-. I gave them extra credit because they've shown an ability to get out of bad contracts.
Yep.
I thought getting off Mikheyev was relatively painless considering the price they paid, including Kuzmenko as part of the Lindholm trade, even Anthony Beauvillier mid-season. Tanner Pearson is the big one that I don't think we talk about enough, to just unload him as part of the Casey DeSmith trade and in one fell swoop upgrade the backup position and get rid of a player that wasn't going to be in your plans last season. I thought that was pretty smart. Dickinson they paid a hefty price for. That's not as impressive of a maneuver, but those other ones I give them credit for getting off of inefficient contracts.
Drafting and developing, I have them at a C+, and I think the book's still out. It's almost like an NA. Like, it's, let me see what Jonathan Lekkerimäki turns into. Let me see what Tom Willander turns into. I like what they've done with Lekkerimäki's development. I like that they got him out to Abbotsford. I like that it seems like he's either going to play in the NHL top 6 next year or more likely play in Abbotsford's top 6 next year until he's ready to be in the NHL. I like what I think the plan is, like what it seems like the plan is for Jonathan Lekkerimäki, their top and most important prospect. I like that plan. Like, I think it's good. The only thing that I think you lose points on is that, one, there hasn't really been anybody that's been drafted and developed by them. So it's almost like an NA. I don't know if it's even fair to give them a C+. You can't blame them for Podkolzin.
Yeah, of course not. And I cheated. I gave them an incomplete.
Because
there's literally nothing to judge yet.
Yeah.
It's too early for the draft classes that they were responsible for to look at the results. You look at the 2022 first draft that they had. I think Lekkerimäki at 15th overall is trending well relative to where he was taken. And he's a player that was originally slotted to go higher in the draft, sort of slipped. I was a fan of the pick at the time. A year ago, it didn't look as if it was trending the best, just because he'd been dealing with mono, didn't have the most productive draft plus one season. But it was a banner year for him last year, and you like the trajectory right now. Elias Pettersson as their third round pick that year is trending well too. Then when you look at the 2023 draft, I still don't know if I would have taken Tom Willander at 11. But again, it's way too early to say. Like, I would have loved Zach Benson there, but I'm not going to judge them for that one way or another a year later.
Trading, I gave them an A. Like I said, the only one that I take points away from is the Jack Studnicka trade. Just felt unnecessary. It was kind of weird when it happened. Jonathan Myrenberg, we projected him to be a really high value prospect for a guy taken in the 5th round, and like, hasn't he been pretty good recently too? I didn't like that trade when it happened.
I haven't tracked his development too closely since.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the SHL, put up 11 points last year. We'll still see, but it was unnecessary to lose a right. Like, Jonathan Myrenberg is one of their top prospects. If they keep him right now, he's still one of their top prospects.
Top 10, sure.
Yeah. Well, we just did our top 20 rankings at CA. Okay.
They have 20 prospects.
Maybe top 5. Maybe top 5.
I don't know if he would have cracked the top 5.
Time to bring Dave Hall on and ask him how Jonathan Myrenberg's looking. Anyways, that's the only one I took points away.
I gave them an A-. I didn't dock them for. I don't care about the Studnicka trade.
Wow.
Sure, they lost Myrenberg. It is what it is.
Yeah.
For me, what would have given them an A is if they had, like, it's more of a, to deserve an A, you need more like home run, like, holy crap, how did you acquire that guy for that little type trades? Again, sort of similar to the Avs picking up a number 1 defenseman in Devon Taves for, what was it, like
2 second-round picks.
2 second-round picks at the time. It would have taken like a grand slam trade like that to earn like an A or A+ in my book, but A- is still a really good grade. So.
Free agency, I have them in an A-, and I think it could be even higher because you signed Jake DeBrusk on July 1st. I think that's the best free agent signing made this free agency period.
Yeah, I give them an A-. Last summer, they batted 100%.
Yep.
Right? Susie, Bluger, Cole, Suter were all hits, which is rare when you're in that secondary tier of shopping for mid-range free agents.
As we know in this market.
I know. So give them a ton of credit for that. That was an A/A+ caliber summer. I docked points for the Mikheyev signing. Of course, they found a way to get off of it, but that, of course, didn't work out. So.
Yep. Vision. I have them here at an A+. They arrived here. They said, and when I say they, I really mean Jim Rutherford, said, this is what needs to happen. We're not playing the way we want to. They hire Bruce Boudreau. Well, they don't hire Bruce Boudreau, but Bruce Boudreau is their coach. And they make the change that's necessary and bring in a guy in Rick Tocchet that they say, we think this guy is going to turn. They nailed it on Tocchet. Like, they went out, they said, we think this guy is going to make our team better, and he wins the Jack Adams Award. Like, I don't think you can look at their vision and say it's anything but an A+. I think that's the only A+ I gave them was vision.
I think so. This is interesting because originally I probably didn't do it the way I should have. I was looking at just the team's like overall positioning and blueprint, and I should have looked at it more from the lens of like what has this front office been doing. Initially, I almost gave them a B+, but that was more in the sense of my only concern with the state of the Canucks right now is, are they going to be able to get to that next level of, okay, they're a really good team now.
Yeah.
They have the ability that if things go right, they can win a round. Maybe they can win 2. But can they get to the point where they're better than the Edmonton Oilers, for example?
Yep.
Or can they get to the point where they can realistically win a Stanley Cup with this core? And I think that's going to be still a significant challenge. You've got 3 years left with Quinn Hughes at under $8 million. That's a tight window to get it done, and they need a lot of things to sort of get right to take that leap from you're one of the top 5 teams in, let's say, the Western Conference to, all right, you're either number 1 or number 2 in the West. In terms of when we're profiling cup contenders, you're one of the top 5 cup contenders in the entire league. I don't think they're at that tier yet. And I just worry that for as well of a job that this management regime has done, and this is more so because the Benning regime wasted so many years where Hughes and Pettersson were cheap. It's not this management regime's fault. but they've got a narrow path to try and hit to actually win a Stanley Cup, which is ultimately the goal.
Yeah. Overall, I gave him an A-.
Yeah, overall A- for me.
Perfect. Okay. Let's go to our poll question where we ask the people for their confidence level. This is our poll question, and it is brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Bet365 poll question. How confident are you in the front office? Very confident, confident, need to see more, not confident at all. Harman, 55.3% leading the vote say they are very confident in the Canucks front office. 39.6% say confident, 3.5% say they need to see more, and 1.6% of people, how many people in the Benning family, say they are not
How many
confident?
Oilers fans?
How many Oilers fans say not confident at all? I'm confident. I think we just outlined it pretty well. You have to be pretty confident with what this team's done, and I think you have to be very confident in their vision. They have a plan. The last regime just didn't have a plan. They never had a plan, and you can tell what this team's plan is. Also because they tell you. Like, it's not just, the plan isn't, yeah, we want to make the playoffs. The plan is, here's how we're going to get there. Here's what we're going to do. You can look at their moves. You can look at what they say. It all lines up, and then you can see it on the ice.
It's not just a plan. To me, it's the execution of their pro scouting and actually building a supporting cast around the core. That's been the biggest 180-degree turn from the Benning regime to Rutherford and Alvin. Is when the last management regime had cap space, you were bracing yourselves for what bad contracts they were going to sign that you inevitably just knew were going to hinder the books down the road. It was almost a bad thing when you're like, oh boy, the Canucks have cap space heading into July 1st.
Someone throw away Jim Benning's phone. They have cap space.
Whereas now, it's not just that you trust Rutherford and Alvin with the cap space to actually identify the right targets, but it's they can carve out the cap space in the first place, and then it's their discipline to be able to look at players they like and actually draw a line in the sand in negotiations and say, we really like you, but we're not going past this number, because if we go past this number, it's going to affect other things that we can do with our roster. They don't get tied and married and attached to players. Whereas I feel like imagine if the last regime was responsible for managing all of the offseason decisions that this regime just went through. They would have like
Dakota
overpaid.
Joshua 4x4.
Zadorov would have gotten a blank check. They probably would have signed Lindholm.
I mean, there's history. We're not just talking crap here. There's history. Erica Branson, double down on that mistake. Tanner Pearson, double down on that mistake. Then they just made a bunch of other mistakes as well. But with what you're talking about, yeah, doubling down on your mistakes, signing your mistakes to extensions. That was our poll question. It was brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code VANBONUS when you sign up for an account. Okay, let's get to anyone else. Anyone else? Bear with me. I have to make sure I don't have a new script. And I do have a new script. So I'm excited to tell you that the Vancouver Canadians, who are the presenting sponsor of anyone else, are back at the Nat all week. This week, warm weather, beautiful nights. Get out to the Nat. Fireworks extravaganzas on Thursday nights. Nooners on Friday afternoons. A good reason to leave work early on a Friday. And family fun Sundays. These games are all sure to be packed, so get your tickets early. Don't wait. Call 604-872-5232 or go to CanadiansBaseball.com. I got one for you. I threw this one. Jacob and I carpooled today. I threw this one at Jacob in the car, and he said I should bring it up, so I'm going to bring it up. Last week, during Family Feud, on last Thursday's episode, we were asked what current Canuck is most likely to have their jersey retired. The number one answer, overwhelmingly so, was Quinn Hughes, right? Rightfully so. But I came up with Elias Pettersson as my second answer. That got 1 vote. JT Miller gets like 5 votes. This is not a...
Pettersson got 3, actually.
Oh, okay.
Garland got 2.
Okay, there. Yeah, Garland got 2. Okay, so Pettersson gets 3. My point being, Harman, is that not so much, because again, the right answer is Quinn Hughes. Like, that is the right answer. But there is a solid chance for Elias Pettersson still. Like, I went back and looked at it, and I know scoring is up. It's not a flawless argument. But except for Pavel Bure, Elias Pettersson's first 5 or 6, whatever it's been, years of his NHL career, Pavel Bure is the only one that outscored him. Elias Pettersson has put up better numbers than every single person that has their jersey retired by the Canucks, except for Pavel Bure.
Yeah, I would also argue though that the Canucks bar for retiring jerseys should be higher.
Absolutely, it should be. Absolutely, they should come out with some sort of criteria like the Chicago Blackhawks have.
I also think
what a great organization the Chicago Blackhawks.
I also think he needs to be part of sustained team success.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Because the team goes deep in the playoffs, great. Pettersson wasn't a major contributing factor in the playoffs. Like you need strong playoff performances. Like you think about why Trevor Linden is so revered in this market. It's because it's not just because he was a captain and he was this great player. It's because come playoff time he clutched up.
Yep.
And had massive moments in the 94 team went to game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. So Pettersson, he'll need to be the driver for a playoff run.
And this is all I'm saying though, is that historically speaking, like what we've seen from Elias Pettersson is that he is one of the elite players in the NHL.
Yeah.
How many years could you say that about Henrik Sedin, Daniel Sedin? Like I'm not trying to get into the weeds here, but like you could say that after like the 5th or 6th year of the Sedin's career.
Yeah, but they also hit a peak where they were the best players in the league.
Yes, they did. So Pettersson is 25. Can he still do that?
Nope.
He can't get to a point where he's up there, like in the top 5.
But no. We're talking about those guys won Art Ross trophies.
Sure.
I'm talking. I don't expect Pettersson to.
You need a Connor McDavid
win a
injury.
Hart Trophy.
You need a Connor McDavid injury.
And
or
likely
just
Nathan McKinnon
voter fatigue.
Yeah. But put it this way: can Pettersson have a couple of years where he's a top 5 player in the NHL? Yeah. Yes.
Can he finish top 3 in scoring? McDavid, McKinnon, Pettersson. Could you ever see that happening?
I'm not going to completely rule it out.
Kucherov's 30.
You still have Draisaitl cooking though. I also look at Pettersson as a player that for him to have a banner year, it may not be one of the types of seasons where he finishes top 3 in scoring. It might be like, he won a Selke in scoring, plus he's top 3 in Selke voting, like one of those types of campaigns.
Playing against top competition, not a third line center. Look, folks, I'm not coming out here trying to say, oh, you're all wrong. What happened at the tail end of the season and into the playoffs was actually good, and you're all wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I am just saying that he is 25 years old, and we refuse to talk about this because all these Pettersson haters that come through and they're just like spewing off. We don't have time for them. We straight up don't have time for it. We don't have time for the people that, hit our comment section up or whatever, and they're throwing out this Pettersson slander. It's happened for half a season. Like it's happened for half a season twice. Let's see what he does next year. If anybody wants to bet me that Pettersson breaks 100 points next year, I'll gladly take that. Like Pettersson's crossing 100 points. I'm putting that prediction
clipped
in the sand right now. I'm putting it in right now. Clip it, Jacob. Clip it. Pettersson is getting 100. You're making a face.
No, I like this. I like the confidence. I'm not disagreeing.
You saw a face.
But I like it when you're bold.
Hit the replay button, Jacob. I saw Harman make a face. This is going to be a clip. Yep, people are going to see if he made a face. I think he made a face. I don't think Harman. Are you saying under 100?
I think it's 50-50.
50-50. Yeah, it's probably fair. 100 points. I'm putting my flag in the sand.
I like it.
I'm going to chime in here. I'm a huge Marcus Naslund fan. Obviously, his number is retired. Elias Pettersson has higher playoff points per game currently than Marcus Naslund finished his career with. And you got to remember, like Naslund had, 5 years in a row with the Canucks where they didn't make the playoffs. So, look, I'm fully on board with you, Quads. I think the production you've seen from Pettersson early in his career has been really good. And one bad playoff run. I mean, Naslund had 3 bad playoff runs, and then he had 02-03 where he was a point per game player, and he was really one of the Canucks' best players and one of the league's best players at that time. So give Petey a chance. He's young enough that, hey, a couple of years from now, you might see him pop 30 points in a playoff run. You're
going to hate me for bringing this up. But you said earlier that the Canucks should have higher standards. Whose jersey do you want to rip down?
I'm not going into that. I'm not. Come on now.
You said it. You said it. What I heard was that you personally wanted to get on the ladder and rip it down.
Look, I don't want to disrespect anybody.
That's fair. I do. I'll tell you exactly who. Like if we have a standard, right? I would put Stan Smeel in the Ring of Honor, right?
Yeah.
I would put Marcus Naslund in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And my retired jerseys would be Henrik Sedin, Daniel Sedin, and Trevor Linden.
Yeah.
Pavel Bure.
Oh, yeah, and Pavel Bure. And I think you could also make a case for Trevor Linden to go in the Ring of Honor.
It's
also early August, and I'm just throwing stuff out.
Linden could be that kind of like he's in the Ring of Honor, but still no one gets to wear 16 again, like the unofficial retired
like
number.
Luongo, and
kind of, yeah. Like I don't think the Canucks will ever have a goalie wear number 1 again.
Yeah,
because of McLean and Luongo both being in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah, but Luongo
should have been retired.
Luongo should have been retired.
I agree.
But we don't need to actually, like, people in the chat are like, yeah, unretired. Jimmy Honeywell, regular listener to the show. Appreciate you, Jimmy. He's in the chat, goes, unretired 12. You can't unretire. Once it's been done, you can't go up. And that is disrespectful.
That would be really disrespectful.
I love Stan Smeel, and Stan Smeel is a great person. And he, like, I'm just saying, if you had a standard, what you would have done if you had the standard from the start is Smeel probably doesn't reach the requirement. But once you've done it, you don't go retroactively. That's a huge statement on an organization. Can you imagine? Attend the game on December 12th when we do the unretiring ceremony.
Has it ever been done in a pro sport?
Yes,
someone has to have like committed a crime or something, right?
Well, I know the Blue Jays took down the Roberto Alomar banner when he was doing his
what did he do?
Some sexual misconduct stuff. But I don't think they've assigned number 12 again. So the banner came down, but they're still just not going to give the number out. But I don't think it's we don't want to be disrespectful and give the number out. I think we just don't want people talking about this situation again, so we're just not going to assign the number. But the Alomar banner is down at Rogers Center now. It's just Halliday's number up there.
This is really funny. So I just Googled unretired NHL jerseys because I tried to look up, if it had been done. There's a few around sports, but anyways. The first thing that comes up is an HF Boards comment being like, honestly, with the Canucks, just restart, unretire everybody, and only put Daniel and Henrik up. I like it. It's a bold take. It's a bold take. No, you don't unretire people. I was joking. I was trying to set you up to get a clip of you saying, yeah, rip this jersey down.
Chris Neil being retired I'd rip that jersey is down. Wild.
How high are you to the jerseys at the Canadian Tire Center? Like, could we reach it? Get along. Bunch of hockey
Trust
sticks
me, you don't want to
together.
cover a game in Ottawa.
No, I don't think I do.
I've been there, and look, I think the city of Ottawa itself is great, but the rink is in Canada, and it's literally on the side of a highway. It's like if the Canucks played off the side of a highway in Surrey.
The Abbotsford Center. If they played at the Abbotsford Center.
Yeah.
Center.
I'm not exaggerating. There's nothing around the Canadian Tire Center. Like, there's no restaurants, there's no bars.
That's wild.
Like, there's nothing there.
Huh. All right. There's someone in the Facebook chat that doesn't like us talking about retiring the old jerseys, I don't think. Talking about how we're too young and don't know anything to be talking about this. Which, hey,
fair enough.
He might be onto something. Dude might be onto something. He might be onto something. Okay. So there's anyone else's in the chat. This one that I wanted to get to, because you and Tom wrote about this at The Athletic. Jeremy Lee, what is your opinion about Hronek playing on his own line? Tom threw out the idea of Vincent Desharnais getting a run with Quinn Hughes. I asked Bag Milk, our resident Oilers guy over at Oilers Nation, about the idea of Desharnais playing with Quinn Hughes. He said that is probably the best fit, but that would also mean you're not playing Quinn Hughes against top competition, which I don't think the Canucks want to do.
Like, they never did that anyway last season.
It's going to be the Susie Myers, is what you're saying, or Susie Hronek in this case. Playing against top competition.
So I'm torn because on the one hand, Hughes and Hronek together were one of the best top pairs in the NHL, and the advantage that gave them. I mean,
they were good in the second half.
Yeah, totality wise, it wasn't just total season.
Yep,
right up there. To take away that advantage at the top of your lineup potentially I want that advantage there. I don't know if I want to make Quinn Hughes less dangerous by giving him a player that isn't going to be able to give him as many touches with the puck in the offensive zone. But I can also understand the logic of, in the playoffs, how many times did I bring up the fact that the Canucks couldn't generate shots with Quinn Hughes on the bench. Like when the second and third pairs were on the ice, the Canucks as a team just couldn't generate any level of offense. I think a lot of that has to do with their lack of puck moving. And so does Hronek bumping down to pair 2, playing with Susie, does that solve that problem? And how high is that benefit relative to the potential drop off of going from Hughes Hronek to Hughes Desharnais?
This one, and I don't want to actually, let's not move away from this because it's kind of topical, but to answer your question, like how much of a drop off is that with Hughes Desharnais? The thing that I said to Bag Milk when we were talking about this was that Noah Juulsen, there was a good stretch there where Noah Juulsen was playing like a top pair defenseman because he was playing with Quinn Hughes. And when Bag Milk, and I'll read you, I was texting him about this and I got quotes for him or from him for this article that I'm working on. I asked him what Desharnais does well. Desharnais does an excellent job using his size to break up the cycle and defend down low. He's got a knack for limiting time and space below the goal line and fishing pucks out of the pile to regain possession. That said, he needs a partner who can make a clean breakout pass because Vinny is just not that guy. In Edmonton, he worked best with a well-rounded partner like Brett Kulak. Kulak has strong wheels and a decent first pass, which covered up a lot of Vinny's puck handling deficiencies. Who would you take, Quinn Hughes or Brett Kulak? Like,
of course,
that's what we're talking about, right?
I don't think
it feels like it's a stylistic fit.
Well, here's the thing. I don't have a question that Hughes and Desharnais would play well as a pair, but are they going to play at an elite level?
That's
right. And a lot of that does come down to Hughes individually because he'll have stretches of like 20, 30, 40 games in a season where you could put me next to Quinn Hughes and we'd have a dominant
I was
defense
just
pair.
about to say, I think I could play with Quinn Hughes because, like, the thing about me, folks, I got a boom of a shot. I really struggle. If the pass is behind me, it's tough for me to make those tight turns to stop. I can't stop very well. Tough for me to make those turns. If the pass is behind me, I'm gliding forward and waiting for it to bounce off the boards and try to get it that way. So maybe we wouldn't be an NHL pairing, but
the point I'm trying to make is then there are other stretches where Hughes is still dominant. He's still electric, but he's not going to be able to do it all by himself.
Yep.
And those are the moments where does that defense pair, are they controlling less than 60% of 5-on-5 goals all of a sudden? Also, and what does that mean for the rest of your lineup?
What have we seen with Filip Hronek in running his own pair, quote unquote?
We don't know either way.
Well, I think he had 30 minutes away from Quinn Hughes at 5-on-5 last season.
It's a bit more than that.
All I know is the results weren't great.
But it's such a small sample.
Small sample. Sure, we don't know. Let's go with that. That'll be our official position. This one from Isaiah Lucas, who called us delusional. Oh, no, he called you delusional. I like this guy. He said, I would like to see 649, 1743 play. That's a stacked line. I'm glad he brought this up because when we were talking about this, the thing that I thought about, remember that generational run we saw in December when they just mowed down all of the Eastern United States? Got to be a better way to say that, but you know what I'm saying, right? When they were just on an absolute tear, they had that game against the Rangers, the Islanders, the Devils, and that was the 5-man unit that was out there and just dominating.
Wait, so where's the I'm delusional part?
Oh, it's from earlier. I think talking about unretiring jerseys.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
When you said you wanted to,
I thought it was related to this. I'm like, I wasn't talking about the lotto line.
No, not about that. I think he was talking about when you said you didn't like Stan Spiel as a person.
Well, yeah. Says the guy who brought up that
thing that you said. Okay. But yeah, that was a 5-man unit that, again, I remember seeing their Hockey Viz page and it was just like heat. The heat map was just heat everywhere. It was just heat everywhere. They were unbelievable. So why can't that last longer? Why couldn't the lotto line be a 5-man? Do you remember, or not 5-man unit? Why couldn't the lotto line be trusted? Do you remember when Rick Tocchet just ripped into the lotto line toward the end of the season? Do you remember that?
Was it ripped?
I think it was ripped. Maybe he ripped into the
critical.
media. He ripped into the media a bit for asking about it so much. But also the line. Like, someone asked him about the lotto line, and all I remember is Rick Tocchet saying something along the lines of, "You guys always talk about the lotto line. I don't care what they're called. They gotta play better."
Yeah,
like that was what he said. Something along those lines, and I love that. I don't know if we'll see the lotto line much.
I think
It'll
it's
be in
a break
spurts.
glass in case of emergency option.
And do you remember how I described this? You described it exactly like that. I don't know, probably around the time Tocchet said this. And I said, so it's break glass in case of emergency, but your fire extinguisher might be a flamethrower and you don't know what you're getting. You pull the pin, you pull the trigger.
Yeah, but there's no sure things when you're mixing up your lines.
Well, and I think the interesting part from the comment from Isaiah is if they do split up Hughes and Hronek, and now all of a sudden you're reuniting that pair to go with the Lotto line as a 5-line unit. I mean, it's getting a little more complicated, but like now your break glass in case of emergency is like, yeah, you're looking at 100 fire extinguishers or 20 flamethrowers, right? Like when you're getting that complicated with it. But you're right. I mean, if you're going to put a D pair with that line, you would think it's going to be Hughes and Hronek, even if they're not a regular pair next season.
How many?
I still think you start with Hughes and Hronek, but maybe at certain points you experiment, and that's what Adam Foote did during games. Is situationally he'd mix up the D pairs, and you'd see different combinations sometimes for different games. I think that's approach. Start with Hughes and Hronek, but
training camp and the regular season are two different things. But I'm fully expecting to see them split up day one of training camp.
Yeah, that could be.
I mean, like, weren't they last year too? Like, wasn't McWard with Quinn Hughes?
Yeah, McWard saw a lot of time with Hughes.
Yeah, so like I think we are going to see a split. I think we're going to see the new guy Vinny Desharnais play because look, if it doesn't work out in training camp preseason, opening night that Quinn Hughes and Philip Hronek know how to play with each other. You're not going to run Hronek Hughes all through preseason and be like, you know what, opening night, let's do it. Vinny's up there, boys. Vinny's up there. You're not going to see that. So, yeah. So, anyways. It's an interesting thought. Okay, this one from Hannah. Do you think the waiver situation with Patera requiring them and Silovs being exempt will end up playing a role in how they're deployed this season? I've started to think about the 3 goalie thing. The one thing I'll say is if Yuri Patera goes on waivers, I don't think he's getting claimed, but injuries happen to goalies. And if an injury happens in the preseason, you need a guy who has played NHL games, like there's a reason the Canucks like Patera. It's because he played on awful Henderson Silver Knights team last year, one of the worst in the AHL last season, and he was decent. Like he was a fine goalie for them, and they were awful. So I don't know if the Canucks are worried about losing Patera on waivers per se, and I'm not coming out here to say you can't let him hit waivers. If you lose him on waivers, that really sucks. But it's not the end of the world where you're changing your whole philosophy, but there is a world where Silovs, you want him to play a lot. Okay, he's waiver exempt. We could very, very well see Archer Silovs play a ton of games in the AHL and a bunch of games in the NHL too. Like that split that we're talking about with Demko and Silovs, we're talking about like a 30 type thing. I think Patera gets some starts, but we're talking about like 30 in the NHL for Silovs. I still think we could see, I don't want to put a number on it, but like we could see more than 10 for Silovs in the AHL.
Yeah, it sort of depends because how confident are you in Silovs playing, let's say 30-ish NHL games? Because if he's going to play 30, a little bit more than that even, then that's enough of a sample that you don't need to feed him a ton of reps in Abbotsford.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But let's say Demko had not gotten hurt, then I think a lot of the conversation would have been, okay, if the Canucks are going to play Demko for 60 starts, and Silovs is only closer to 20 to 22 starts as a backup, then maybe he needs more reps as a starter, and you can leverage him being waivers exempt by giving him some extra starts in Abbotsford. I think the first question to answer is how much do you think he's going to play for the NHL team? For how many starts do you project him to get? Because again, if it's close to 30, then I don't think he necessarily needs a lot of extra reps in Abbotsford.
I think it has to be close to 30. Right? Like,
yeah,
has to be. So I think you're right. They might be under 10, but I still think he'll get some reps. Like, especially if there's like a long stretch where it's a homestand.
Yeah,
they got some home cooking. Let him get a start or two.
Yeah,
out in Abbotsford. So that's a good question. Nick Pocek, regular listener of the show in the YouTube live chat, said Harm the MVP talking over Quad's attempted flamethrower sidetrack diversion. You responded to Jacob, but I was gonna say we could come up with a system of like, are you a flamethrower or are you an extinguisher?
In what context? For what?
Like for evaluating player evaluation. Corsi, flamethrower.
I don't know, man.
What's your flamethrower percentage? I don't know. I'm a big fan of developing my own analytics. You know what was the
HD
yeah
chances?
HD
I actually like that because
really high
had a manual tracking element. It was unique.
Yeah.
Side flow is different.
Yeah, you could see me in this notebook that I have right here. You could see me in the
Where's
Rogers
this
Arena
flamethrower? Like, I don't know what this is.
I'm throwing it out there.
We got to scrap.
Come
this
back
idea,
on
man.
Tuesday. We'll have a formula.
The analogy kind of made sense for like the lotto line and the break glass.
I know that was a good one.
That was a decent one, but beyond that, don't.
Decent.
It was good. Good.
I'll take that. I'll take good. Okay. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, which is brought to you by our friends over at Bet365.
What are you jinxing this time?
What am I jinxing this time? I'm jinxing my own Seattle Mariners. And I hate to say this because they absolutely got it shoved at them when Tarek Skubal was on the mound. You know Tarek Skubal?
No chance.
He's going to probably win the AL Cy Young Pitcher of the Year award in
Good
the
for
MLB.
him.
He was just shoving last night. And then the Mariners came back.
Is that a term now? He was just shoving last night?
Yeah, shoving it down their
It's
throat.
always been a term.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a hockey term too, isn't it? I'll say it this season. I'll say it a bunch now. Anyways, Mariners had a late comeback attempt. Guy jumped, robbed it at the wall. It would have been a 2-run homer to give them the lead in the bottom of the 8th inning. Their center fielder, I think, was Matt Vierling.
What are their playoff odds right now?
I don't know their odds, but they're only like a half game back of first place in the division. So they're still doing okay. They'll be okay. But I'm saying that they lose again tonight to the Detroit Tigers. You can get the Tigers at plus 185 odds. I just like those odds. Sprinkle something on that. That's our Bet365 bet of the day, and is brought to you by our friends over at Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Be sure to use code VANBONUS when you sign up for an account. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. We'll close it out there. Fun episode here at the Wall Center for my co-host, Harman Dial, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar. My name is Diego Rugelli. Thank you so much for listening to the episode of the Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.